Welcome to my mind. Firstly, apologies. Now let's go.
Well, it presents with a symmetrical ascending weakness, which starts from the feet and moves up the body.
Code blue.
There will be reduced reflexes.
Code blue.
I live in London. That's coupled with the fact that I tend to oversubscribe to things all the time and I am quite emotionally sensitive, means that I live quite a hectic life in general, and I am very often in a state of overwhelm. Because I naturally find it quite difficult to switch off my thinking or emotional brain, in those rare cases where I am not thinking of deadlines and the messages I need to answer and all the things I need to do, I feel a state of complete emotional bliss and peace that I just cannot describe. And so, being a natural constant overthinker, I appreciate feeling absolutely nothing so much. So if this sounds like something you can relate to, in this video I am going to go through 4 ways in which I try to switch off my brain and stop overthinking, and the reasons for which I do this. Let's get straight into it. Number 1 is isolation tanks or flotation tanks or sensory deprivation tanks. The thing with these is that they are actually the most effective method of switching off for me. However, there is a few problems to them because they're not easily accessible for everyone. They actually cost a lot of money, so I can't go to them very often, and they're just not very easy to find and to go to as the other methods. So I wanted to mention them very first because they're so effective, but if you think you can or never want to use them, you could just skip ahead. So I first heard about isolation tanks from Joe Rogan, and amidst all of the sometimes not so suitable for me things that he recommends, I thought that flotation tanks were actually something that I would be willing to try. So basically what they are is a room which has a big bath with a lid on it, and inside the bath there is like water and a lot of salts, and you just get completely naked and you get in this bath and you close the lid above you. So when you just lie in this water, because it has so much salt, you're basically completely like lifted, and it is absolutely dark and completely silent. So you have complete sensory deprivation where you're lying down kind of like spread eagled, and because the water is so heavy and the air is so dense, you can't actually tell where the water ends and when the air finishes. So it literally feels like you are floating in the middle of nowhere and you can't see or hear anything. So it's completely just silent. It feels like you're just floating out in space. And although they probably sound like torture chambers to people with claustrophobia, to whom I would definitely not recommend ever going there, to everyone else, I think they are incredibly cool. I found them very interesting because in the first 10 minutes, I thought, okay, this is really ridiculous. What am I doing here? And I was doing the same thing that I always do when I try to meditate, which is trying to kind of stop thinking, but I'm not really accomplishing that, because what I would be doing is just kind of think about my to-do list and what I had to do later in the day and how the salts will get out of my hair and random things like that. But in 10 minutes, because I had nothing to kind of feed me further, so I didn't have my phone to check to kind of answer that email, or I didn't have my computer there, I just ran out of things to think about. And I got into this kind of what I think I could describe as a deep meditation state. I don't think I've ever felt more grateful to be alive and more appreciative of the things I have than during flotation tank experiences. So I think that they are absolutely incredible, especially if you are struggling with meditation. I would definitely recommend going to one because they can be so useful to kind of shove you in a complete meditation state, and they're actually a whole experience and very fun. I wish that they were cheaper and more accessible because I would be going to them very often. I think another value in isolation tanks is that they kind of completely detach you from the world. You feel so isolated and shut out that I feel as though you can approach the issues and problems and things that you are going on in your life with a kind of objective view that the real world in your natural environment just doesn't allow you to do. So I feel like whenever I have a big decision to make, or if I'm feeling quite sad, I just like to go to a flotation tank and kind of detach myself from everything and realize that the world is actually so beautiful and I'm grateful for so much, and I just feel so much better in the end. The second way I kind of shut my mind off is using water, and this might be a bit ridiculous and I don't know if anyone else thinks this way too, but ever since I was very young, I just really loved big spaces of water, like especially the sea, but even rivers and things like that. I just feel like looking at water or waves or kind of ripples is so mesmerizing, and I can do it for a very long time. And most importantly, it just helps me feel very small and insignificant, and I just love that feeling. I feel as though a lot of issues and planning and thinking in my mind comes from the thought that what I am doing is very important, and I think that is a terrible thought to have in general. I read this phrase in one of my favorite books, Time Enough for Love, that said something along the lines of the higher up that someone is, the more that they need to forget it off duty. I feel as though now that I've gotten older, I've fallen into all of these different roles, both in my professional and personal life. So for example, I'm someone's older sister, I am a welfare lead and I need to take care of students, and I'm a healthcare professional, so I need to act a certain way in hospital, and I have a job where I need to act professionally. So I have all of these roles that require me to make small tweaks and changes and act in certain professional and different ways that kind of might delude me into thinking that I'm somehow more important than I actually am. And I feel as though whenever I'm around water, I tend to appreciate that I'm just a human being and nothing that I really do is that important, and the world is so beautiful, and I can kind of get in touch with my natural kind of childish inner self who I used to be before all of these things started to happen. So I really appreciate doing that, and I tend to just love to be around water whenever I can. For example, I'm very fortunate because in this house near my bed, you probably can't see it, but there's like the river just there, so I can kind of see the river every morning and every night or whenever I have a small break. And especially I love going near the sea, which unfortunately I cannot afford to travel that often, but whenever I can, I just love going near the sea, and it just helps me kind of calm down, relax. I shut everything off and forget all of my little problems, issues, and deadlines. The third way that I want to mention is mindfulness and meditation. And this one is a bit challenging and difficult. The reason for that is that I've always had an issue with meditation. I feel as though in the last decade, I've just seen it mentioned so much everywhere. And I feel as though it is so difficult for me because I find it so difficult to switch off anyway. Ever since I've ever been able to think, I've always been overthinking. So I felt as though meditation was not right for me, but also at the same time, because it was so mainstream, I thought, oh, why can I just not do this thing that everyone seems to be doing? So it took me a lot of practice, and definitely the flotation experiences have helped so much with it. But I'm currently in a state where I can actually stop my mind from thinking and just take a few minutes to just think of nothing and meditate. I will say it's very challenging because it takes me quite a long time to get into a state of stopping thinking. It takes me maybe half an hour, so it's really not easy for me to do, and I really need to plan it out and have that time ready, but I do try to do it every single day. And sometimes, even if I'm just lying in bed, I try to kind of breathe in and stop everything, and just try to meditate in general. The reason I love meditation is that it just kind of grounds me to the moment. There's this phrase that I love that says that one of the stupidities of man is that they think that they are too busy to be doing what they're actually doing. And if we wrap our head around this for a second, it actually makes so much sense. I feel as though I fall into this trap quite often where I might be studying something, but I'm thinking in my mind, oh my God, I can't afford to be doing this right now. I'm too busy. I need to be doing this other studying thing. I don't know if anyone else has felt this before, but it is actually quite ridiculous to feel as though you're too busy to be doing what you're doing. So I feel as though meditating and kind of doing nothing intentionally, all of this rush and hustle is quite pointless, and the meditation is actually the thing that I will be looking forward to in the end of the day. Also, I feel as though it helps me kind of lengthen my life and make my experience of life feel a bit longer. I will never forget the phrases that my parents sometimes say, which are along the lines of, I can't believe that time has gone so fast. I feel like I was 25 years old yesterday and now I'm in my 60s. And I always thought, how is this possible? But I also kind of sense it myself, where I think, oh my God, I feel like I'm still 22 or still 23 years old. I don't realize that kind of the years are ticking by. And I think that's because I'm possibly doing a lot, and the more I do, then the shorter time feels. So I feel as though taking just an hour a day to meditate will make that hour feel so much longer than it actually is. And then therefore that day will feel longer than it is, and the week and the month. And this is kind of the way that I hope that things work, but I'm just trying to add as much empty space in my days as I can, because in the end, I think those are the ones that I appreciate the most. And lastly, the fourth method is actually the first one that I discovered, and that is painting. I feel as though one of the reasons that I loved painting so much, apart from the fact that I genuinely enjoy painting so much, is the effect that it has on my mind. So when I'm painting, it's one of those rare occasions where I'm actually not thinking of much. And for me, this is extremely, extremely rare. I feel as though once I get into the painting, I'm in the state of flow where it's actually my subconscious mind which is doing the work, and my conscious mind is left free to roam. And for some reason, whenever I'm painting, my conscious mind does not tend to think about work and studying and all that stuff, but it just tends to think about nothing and appreciate the moment. And I remember so clearly when I first got into this painting flow as a child, how incredible and relieving and liberating it felt. So ever since, I feel as though whenever I'm in a good state of painting, sometimes if I'm around other people, I can use my conscious mind to chat. But in general, when I'm doing painting on my own, which is how I do it most of the time, it just feels so great. So I feel as though not only am I kind of learning a skill and doing something that I love and creating beautiful things for myself to see, but also I'm giving myself a huge break from thinking in general. So yes, if you're related to any of these points, you might actually find my newsletter also quite interesting to read, perhaps. I'll be linking it in my description, but that's the place where I talk about similar things to this. But yes, that's all for today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Be kind to yourself and others, and don't believe everything you think. Thanks. Bye.